Coming up on Arirang News, South Korea approves the COVID-19 vaccine made by AstraZeneca. It's got the green light for all adults, including senior citizens, with rollout to start before the end of the month. The number of people employed in South Korea was down in January by nearly 1 million from a year earlier, the worst monthly figure since the Asian financial crisis of the late 1990s. And it's the start of the Lunar New Year holiday. Millions of people will be hitting the road to see family and to travel, but there are special measures being taken to prevent the virus from spreading. It's 5 p.m. here in Seoul. Thanks for tuning in to Arirang News. I'm Devin Whiting. The South Korean government, having been advised by 3 panels of experts, announced on Wednesday that it has approved the COVID-19 vaccine made by AstraZeneca for all adults, including seniors. Rollout's expected to start at the end of the month at nursing homes. Jang Tae-hyun reports.
AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine is the first to be approved by South Korea's Ministry of Food and Drug Safety. It has been cleared for use on those aged 18 and older, including those aged 65 and above. The ministry announced on Wednesday that after evaluations from 3 advisory committees, it approved the vaccine's safety and effectiveness. But it said the results of a 3rd trial being held in the U.S. should be submitted, and said medical staff can choose not to give the jab in certain conditions.
There's no problem with the safety or immune response for those aged over 65. It's just that a limited number of just 660 elderly people participated in the clinical trial. So we're saying that when vaccinating elderly people for perceived benefits, medical staff can make a decision depending on the receiver's situation.
According to trials done in the UK and Brazil, the vaccine is 62% effective for those over the age of 18. Its biggest advantage is that the vaccine can be stored or delivered at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, so it can be easily kept in standard refrigerations. Shots for 750,000 people are to be distributed gradually from February 24th, and SK Bioscience is to produce these vaccines under consignment. The KDCA will finalize the list of people to be vaccinated and start giving the jab to people from February 26th, including those in nursing hospitals and similar facilities. Jang Tae-hyun, Arirang News.
And South Korea today reported more than 400 new cases of COVID-19 for the first time in 6 days. With cases of the coronavirus variants continuing to come in, the authorities have announced that South Korean nationals, too, will have to submit negative test results before they can enter the country. Our Kim Yeon-sung reports.
Daily COVID-19 cases in South Korea climbed back above 400. Wednesday saw 444 new cases, 414 of which were local infections. The majority of those local transmissions came from the capital region, which recorded 344 cases.
The reproduction number indicates COVID-19's ability to spread, and that number has continued to rise in the last 4 weeks and has reached almost 1.0 from 0.79. Especially in the capital, the number has gone slightly over 1.
But health authorities are facing another uphill battle, this time with the COVID-19 variants. A total of 80 variant cases have been reported, 14 of which came from local transmissions after contact with people who had arrived from overseas. In response, the government will no longer issue quarantine exception certificates to visitors from countries with reported cases of the variant, except for in the most extreme circumstances. What's more, the government is now ordering everyone coming in from overseas to turn in a negative PCR test. From February 24th, South Korean citizens will also have to turn in a negative test to enter the country. This means that all incomers will have to take the COVID-19 test 3 times, once before coming into the country, once right after the arrival, and then another right before the end of the 2-week quarantine. Local governments will also designate directors of overseas entrants to more closely monitor those in quarantine and make sure that they're following all the rules. With the looming lunar holiday increasing the chances of the virus spreading, health authorities won't be taking a break.
The Lunar New Year holiday starts tomorrow. We're now at a critical crossroads. We can end the biggest crisis of all time, the third wave of infections, or light up the dying fire of infections once more.
김현승, Arirang News.
There would normally be heavy traffic at the Lunar New Year, but that's less true this time because people are being encouraged to stay at home. This afternoon, our Choi Won-jong is standing by at the Seoul toll gate, which is the main way in and out of the capital to the south. Won-jong, how's it looking there?
Hi, Devin. Here at the Seoul toll gate, where the traffic will be building up on the eve of the Lunar New Year holiday. But as you can see behind me, there's not as much congestion as we might expect. So this year's Lunar New Year holiday will look much different than last year. When it comes to traffic nationwide. The Transport Ministry says is expecting nearly 4.3 million people to hit the road each day, and nearly 21 million people in total over these 5 days. That's a decline over 1/3 from last year. As of 2 p.m., according to the Korea Expressway Corporation, the journey from Seoul to Busan was taking around 5.5 hours, and Seoul to Daejeon 3 hours and 10 minutes, and Seoul to Gangneung 2 hours and 40 minutes. So the agency gave a briefing earlier this afternoon. Now take a listen.
Traffic congestion started between 11 a.m. and 12 p.m. The heaviest time will be around 6 to 7 p.m. That will continue throughout the night and end between 1 and 2 p.m. tomorrow.
So the traffic is still building up at the moment, but not as heavy as we expected, but we'll see how that's going to turn out later.
We'll be looking forward to those updates, of course, but Won-jong, another big change is that people are not allowed to eat at the highway rest stops to stop the virus from spreading. Tell us about that.
That's right. So this is something similar to last year's Lunar Chuseok holiday. The restaurants can only sell food for takeaway, and this will be the case until Sunday, which will encourage people to spend a lot less time there. The Transport Ministry has predicted a rise of 7.3% in the number of people traveling by car, as opposed to trains, buses, and planes. But the authorities want to discourage holiday travel as much as possible. So breaking with the tradition, tolls on the highways will not be waived this year. So that's all I have for now. I'll be back with more updates in our next newscast. Back to you, Devin.
All right, we'll be looking forward to that, Won-jong. Thanks for being out there for us. Now, President Moon Jae-in and First Lady Kim Jong-suk paid a visit this morning to a fish market in Incheon to do some grocery shopping ahead of the holiday. The first couple went to Seoul Fish Market in Incheon and bought some dried fish, blue crabs, and other seafood, and offered some encouragement to the merchants there who, like others, have seen their businesses struggle in the pandemic. Seoul Fish Market reopened last December after it was destroyed in a fire in 2017. The first couple also bought around 100 gift sets of chutgal, a traditional kind of fermented fish, to donate to people in need. And because people are being encouraged to stay home for the Lunar New Year, the city of Seoul has prepared a series of cultural events that can be enjoyed online. On Saturday at 7 p.m., there'll be an online concert featuring trot singer Park Seo-jin and other operatic pop singers and acoustic acts. Also on Saturday, Cheongchun Theater will host a singing comedy show, which is online as well. From Thursday to Sunday, the Tonimun Museum Village will hold events about making kites and making soap shaped like oxen, since this is the year of the ox on the traditional calendar. These events are on several different YouTube channels, so visit the Seoul City website for details. The number of people employed in South Korea last month was down from a year earlier by almost 1 million. It was the worst monthly figure in more than 20 years. The worst hit sector was services, especially restaurants and hospitality. In response, the government's planning a big boost in public sector hiring. Ji-young reports.
South Korea last month saw its worst jobs numbers since the Asian financial crisis. According to data released Wednesday by Statistics Korea, the number of people employed in South Korea in January was around 25.8 million, down 982,000 from the same month the year before. Employment has been down year on year every month since last March when the pandemic was declared, marking the longest period of decline since 1999. The number of people unemployed also surpassed 1.5 million for the first time. An on-year decline in employment was seen in across all age brackets in January, but the biggest decline was among those in their 30s at 273,000 jobs.
The number of people in work continuously dropped, particularly those in the service industry, as social distancing measures have remained high since December 8 last year. Also, due to the surge in cases and heavy snow during the week of survey, the amount of jobs lost in January was even bigger than the previous month.
The official said the sector that shed the most jobs was the service industry. And there, the biggest on-year decline was in restaurants and lodging at around 367,000 jobs, or about 16%. Finance Minister Hong Nam-ki said Wednesday at a meeting of economy-related ministers that the government will go all out to create around 900,000 jobs in the public sector within the first half of this year.
Public institutions will hire at least 45% more than their annual goal of around 26,000 and swiftly hire 4,300 interns within the first quarter.
Also, the government will draw up a third employment relief budget worth some $8.3 billion to help people whose jobs have been impacted by the pandemic. 엄지영, Arirang News.
Time now for an in-depth look at the market news as we start a long holiday weekend. And for that, I'm joined on the line by Dr. Yang Jun-seo, professor of economics at the Catholic University of Korea. Professor Yang, good to have you back on.
Happy to be here.
Well, stocks in New York seem to take a breather overnight. Not a huge movement, but the Nasdaq did close above 14,000 for the first time. And it was touch and go here in Seoul, but the Kospi closing with a decent gain. What's the story in the global markets?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, the Dow and S&P did have a slight fall, whereas NASDAQ continued to rise. And this just seems to be simple profit-taking. Most analysts do believe that the stock market will continue to go up. Treasury Secretary Yellen said that if the Biden rescue package is passed by Congress, U.S. may go back to full employment levels by 2022. The fourth quarter corporate returns are coming out, and it's better than expected. And there has been a continuing commitment by the Fed that they will maintain loose monetary policy and low interest rate. So the trend seems to be that the stock market will rise, but because there's a lot of difference between the fundamentals of the companies and the current stock prices, you will probably see record highs coupled with many adjustments throughout the year. So we'll probably see a somewhat volatile market and a somewhat nervous market. European stocks fell slightly or held steady. They seem to be following the U.S. market cues. Asian stocks, Nikkei rose slightly, but Shanghai and Hong Kong Hang Seng rose significantly today. Shanghai rose by 1.6%. Hong Kong rose by 1.8%. Kospi seems to be recovering from the fall we had last week. It rose above 3,100 level. Rose 0.86% to 3,111.26, partially due to foreigners buying 750 billion won's worth of stocks. Kosdaq went up 0.68% to 964.41.
Now, there's a lot of talk about potential inflation. We've seen the yield on the 30-year U.S. Treasury bond crossing back above 2% for the first time since the pandemic began. Some of that talk is coming from the Dallas Fed president. What do you make of the situation, Professor?
Okay, well, this touches on a mystery that we had since the global financial crisis in 2008. Since the 2008 financial crisis, major central banks have been increasing money supply for a long time. It has, theoretically, we should have inflation already, but low inflation is maintained. Most economies had below 2% inflation even before coronavirus. After the coronavirus, the money supply, base money supply went up even further, but we're still seeing low inflation. One reason may be that compared to the increase in base money that central bank prints, you expect to see M2 increasing as well, but M2 had not been increasing that much before the coronavirus. However, a big difference now is that M2 seems to be climbing up as well, and that has some analysts concerned, including Lawrence Summers, who was the Treasury Secretary under President Clinton in the United States, and also World Bank chief economist and currently Harvard professor. And he has warned that the Biden rescue package, if passed as is, might spark inflation because of the large amount of money supply that is out there. But most academic economists right now, because we've seen such long period of low inflation, believe that inflation is not likely to rise even with the continuing high increases in base money supply. But again, the reason why the inflation is so low is not well understood right now. So basically, we'll have to keep on watching.
We will indeed. Thank you for shedding light on that situation, Professor. We hope you have a happy and safe holiday. Thanks for coming on.
Happy New Year to all.
And that does it for this newscast. Thank you for watching.